Welcome to the Morning Glory Project, Stories of Determination. I'm your host, Betsy Graziani Fossbender. Like in nature, we see determined flowers and vines clinging to life and seeking light. So are Morning Glory people. And in this podcast, I'll interview writers, activists, artists, entrepreneurs, survivors and thrivers, and trailblazers of all kinds. These are folks that have been determined to get over, under, around, and through the obstacles that face them, or to seize the opportunities that come before them. I find these people inspiring and amazing. I know you will too. It's my honor to welcome to the Morning Glory Project today, Seán Dwyer. Seán is a college professor, songwriter, and the author of award-winning fiction and nonfiction. Just as the possibility of publishing his debut novel was on the near horizon, both his career in teaching and his future as an author were put on hold due to a shocking accident. While stopped at a crosswalk, he was rear-ended at 50 miles per hour and suffered 2 serious concussions in 2 seconds. His injuries have left him with challenging balance issues, light sensitivity, and have rendered him unable to read or write for more than a few moments at a time. After nearly 5 years, he's recovered from some of his symptoms while others linger still. In part as brain therapy, but also as emotional therapy, Seán wrote a memoir of his recovery, A Quest for Tears, Surviving Traumatic Brain Injury, which he wrote to provide support and information to others suffering traumatic brain injury. Thank you so much, Seán, for joining us today.
It's my pleasure, Betsy.
Well, so tell me a little bit about, you were a professor, and I think that you're a professor in languages, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember from our earlier chat. Tell us a little bit about your life prior to your accident.
Yes, I teach Spanish. I have also taught German and French and Portuguese. I am an avid reader. I was, and I also was a very prolific writer. I have written several novels, all of which are in various stages of preparation for publication. And I was taking that sort of slow, just writing when I could, and teaching as my primary source of income and also the primary expenditure of energy. And I like to travel, do some hiking, get out on a bicycle, although most of this has gone by the wayside because of the injuries I experienced.
So you were at a standstill and got rear-ended and had this traumatic brain injury. Tell me about what those injuries were. I know it was 2 concussions in 2 seconds, but were you in the hospital was there surgery? Tell me a little bit about what the impact, that's a bad word, I guess, in this state. I was going to say the impact of the accident. Can you tell me a little bit about what physical issues you sustained and what that initial recovery was like?
Yes. So I was stopped at a crosswalk waiting for pedestrians to cross, and an inattentive driver was rolling up behind us. And the pedestrian saw what was going to happen, and he pushed his friend out of the way. And I knew then that I was either going to have an impact or the guy was going to stop, whoever it was behind me. And so he didn't see me at all. He didn't put on his brakes. The insurance adjusters are saying 50 miles per hour with no brakes. And when I got hit, the first thing that happened was I slammed against the back seat, because when you're rear-ended, you go backward, not forward. And so my seat, I hit it so hard that my seat back snapped, and I went flat on my back. And that first bang on my headrest bent the steel bars in it. And when that happened, of course, that was a concussion. And then he continued to plow into my car. And so the back seat of the car went under the headrest of my seat and flung me into the air. I had belt on, so I went against the belt, and my head snapped against my chest, and I lost consciousness then. So I hit my head twice on the headrest, and once on my chin. So take from that what you will. And then I was in neutral because I had a 5-speed transmission, and so I rolled 136 feet. And if I hadn't rolled, that back seat would have continued to plow into me, and there's no guarantee I would have survived the accident. So what I wound up with was a pretty good whiplash that increased my neck size by 2 numbers immediately, and some back pain. But primarily it was issues with cognitive interaction with the world around me in my brain injury.
So tell me what that means, cognitive interactions with the world around you.
Okay, so for the first 21 months, I couldn't handle light without sunglasses. The first time I tried to read anything, which was about a week after the accident, I got really sick from it. And while I don't get nausea now, I still can only read for maybe 15 minutes at a time.
So you get kind of seasick from reading?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or motion sickness? Like if I read in the car? Is it
Yeah, kind of like that.
sensation?
Yeah. Yeah, except I don't have to be moving.
Right.
And I also got massive headaches from reading for the first couple of years, so I just could not do it.
Of all of the strange losses and the trauma of this, for somebody who was clearly a reader and a writer and a professor, somebody who loved the written word, it must have been really disorienting for you to lose that particular ability.
Yeah, well, anytime I would be ill prior to my accident, how would I kill my time? I would read. And now here I was with 2 or 3 months where I mostly sat around and I couldn't read. I couldn't even listen to the television because for a while I had audio sensitivity as well. And so I found myself just sitting, not doing anything. And that was really hard because I have a very active brain. And even though it went completely quiet for a couple of months, which was kind of scary, not being able to sit and think about things or plan scenes for a book or something was really disheartening. Plus, not knowing if I would ever get to go back to work was kind of scary.
I bet. It's funny that you say that. You say your brain went quiet for a couple of months. What does that mean? Describe that quiet.
Sure. Everybody knows about the curse of earworms, where you get a song in your head and you're like, oh, I can't get rid of this. Well, I almost always have a song running through my head, and usually it flows, it goes away, and then I get the next one. Like right now, Road to Nowhere by the Talking Heads is in my head, and I do not know why.
Well, it's better than I've got a lovely bunch of coconuts or something, right?
Why do you do that to me? Because guess what now?
Oh, sorry. Sorry, yep. I planted it now.
But after the accident, I did not hear anything in my head. And I could not even I could not even summon up a song to listen to in my head.
Wow.
So there was absolutely no connection between my conscious mind and whatever part of my brain holds those audio clips that I get in constant loops. None.
Did that feel lonely or isolated?
Yeah. It did. It felt like I was adrift in a kayak on the ocean, and I'd gone too far out and I was having trouble paddling back to shore or something like that. There was just nothing. I could not retrieve anything. I mean, I could talk to people. They say something to me, I could say something back. But the other thing there was I couldn't guarantee that what I said back would be done with the right words. My wife asked once if I had brought in some leftovers from the car, and I said, yeah, I put them in the car, and I pointed at the fridge. This kind of stuff. And the difference between somebody saying, oh, I meant the fridge, is that I just didn't even notice that I had done that.
Wow. It's so interesting, Seán, as I'm talking to you, please forgive me if I'm really misunderstanding this, but it's such an odd juxtaposition. It seems like most of us in our regular daily life, absent head injury, we're trying sometimes to stop the noise in our heads. We
Oh
meditate,
yeah.
or we're forever striving for those moments of, please, can I be untortured by these thoughts or memories or earworms or other kinds of things. And here you were in an involuntary state of that. And for some time it wasn't peaceful. It was frustrating. No?
Yeah, yes. I mean, it's nice to be able to find ways to calm your brain when it's way too busy. But there's a place in Minnesota where they do acoustic testing that has the quietest room in the world.
Right.
And if I have my numbers right, no, you can buy time in there to see what it's like. But the longest anyone has held out is like 45 minutes because you hear your blood vessels going whoosh, your blood racing through them. You hear your heart beating in your ears. You hear all this stuff, just physical stuff. Plus, then you start, having your thoughts, and they're not drowned out at all by what's going on around you. And so it is not a comfortable thing to have absolute silence. Yeah, we want to get rid of the stuff we don't want to hear, but we usually want to hear something even in our head,
Right. What do you think you took out of that experience now? Like when you look back at it, is there some insight or understanding that you gained from having had that prolonged period of utter silence in your own mind?
I tend to be more accepting of earworms and of thoughts like, oh, I got to do this, got to do that, got to do this, than I used to be, because it used to bother me like it would anybody. But having been in that silent period, I tend to be more grateful that my brain is making noises than I was when it was quiet, and I wished it would make noise.
Well, it makes me think of a song lyric, you don't know what you got till it's gone, right? I mean, you didn't
Totally.
even know that that's what was going on. So what's left for you then after that, we'll call it the period of utter silence, is the coming back. And I understand that you did a lot of rehab and a lot of growing and trying to abate your symptoms. What lingers still, and what are the limitations that you're still struggling with?
Yeah, I just posted on Facebook that I'm trying to resolve a conundrum. I have not been able to read a full novel since my accident. There is a thing in my head where I take in video and it does not get stored to my memory. When I was doing some testing where I had to identify, let's say, see a picture of an elephant, then a monkey, then an elephant, I hit a space bar. But if it's monkey or elephant, monkey, zebra, monkey, I'm not supposed to hit space bar when the zebra comes up. And when I was doing that, just looking at video, just the image on the screen, I was getting 65% accuracy. When I suggested to my therapists that I try saying out loud what I was seeing, and when I did that, I jumped to 95% accuracy. So my audio memory is good, my video memory is bad. So right now, I have read one abridged Agatha Christie novel in the last 5 years, and it's one I had already read. So now I'm hoping that 2020 is the breakthrough year, but I have to. One thing is I cannot read. The other thing is I cannot cry. My eyes will not water for onions, so they burn when I cut onions. They water just enough to keep themselves from drying out. But when it comes to emotional tears, I can't make any. And so those are the two big things right now.
So that's an interesting thing too, because again, crying is one of those things that some people want not to experience. And yet you've titled your new book, A Quest for Tears. So there's
Yes.
a part of you that wants that back. What is it like not to have that, not to have tears?
Well, when I go to funerals and everybody's crying and I'm standing there looking like I don't I feel inside that I'm looking as if I don't care,
Mm.
or as if I'm trying really hard not to, give in to my emotions. And that is not what's happening. I At first, I could not even muster up any emotion at all. I would just say, "Oh, that's really sad," or "Oh, that's funny." But then I eventually started to chuckle at things again. And now when I hear of something really sad, my chest tightens and I get a lump in my throat, but my eyes refuse to do anything, or they try. I mean, I even get like cramps around my eyeballs from the muscles trying to squeeze out tears, and it just won't happen. There is a neurological impairment there. And the reason that I call the book A Quest for Tears is that one thing that's going to make me feel more part of society again is to be able to cry when a family member dies, or somebody tells me something horrible that has happened, and I can resume having seemingly regular emotions on the outside.
Even though you feel them all.
Yeah, I do. And people can tell now, because I look, I gasp for breath when my chest tightens up.
Right.
But I just don't get the catharsis. And so a lot of things are built up inside me, a lot of sadness that I would like to be able to, get rid of.
It's funny that I think that at least in American culture, so many men are taught not to cry, right? And
Yes.
here you are saying that there's this craving of wanting that back, and not only to experience it, but as release, but also to communicate your empathy with others, that the absence of that outer signal troubles you.
Yeah, I think even people who, men who don't want to cry, they might still get choked up and their eyes will water. My eyes won't water.
Right.
So I can't even look like I'm trying to hold back tears. There's nothing to hold back. And I didn't weep, constantly about life, but I would get, if somebody passed on or something, I would cry.
Right.
That's what we do as humans, I think, in
Sure.
general. And whether you do it in public or just privately when nobody can see you. And I can't do either.
Huh. Well, I wonder for you, this had to be so disruptive to your life, to your work, to your career, to your finances, to your relationships, to all of those things. I wonder, what was the darkest moment, and what were the things that helped you through that?
The darkest moment was when I got hit at the end of January. And when the end of the winter quarter was coming up, and I had to make a decision about whether I was going to teach in late March of that same school year. And I realized that I was not capable of reading well enough. I for the whole first year I did teach, I could not write on the board and talk at the same time without tipping over. So
Because of balance issues?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that spring quarter, when we had to decide if I was coming back or not, it's easier to look back now and say, oh yeah, well, 6 months kind of took care of it. But at the 3-month mark, I really had no way of knowing if I would ever have enough brain power to go back into the classroom. And because I'm too young to retire with the mega $1 million pension or anything. And so I needed to be able to go back and teach or find something else to do. And I thought, well, the only other thing that I could do right now probably would be deliver pizza, and I can't stay up late enough at night to do that. So I didn't know if I was going to wind up on disability or what. And that's really tough, because I have people depending on me financially, not on me, but co-depending. And it really felt like I needed to contribute to society. And so one of the things I did, I started thinking about this book as a contribution to a segment of society that needs it.
Well, as a writer, I have to ask you a nuts and bolts kind of question. How do you write if you can't read for lengths of time?
Well, my book is structured in very short chapters, and that's partly because I, as a writer, couldn't handle much more at the time. And I, as a reader, knew that other people with traumatic brain injuries would have trouble either reading or being read to long chapters, long convoluted story pieces. So it's very short chapters. And I was able to put that together. But when I had about the book is 80,000 words long. And when I was at about 60,000 words, my head started getting muddled. And I was starting to wonder if I was going to be able to finish a coherent draft of the book. So what I had to do was resort to using dictation software. And so I dictated the book, and then I had somebody go through it very carefully and see whatever dictation stuff got messed up. For example, I could never get the software to write the word EYE. It always came out as capital I. And so things like I have sand in my eye, it would come out as capital I. And so all of those had to be caught, and a few other little stumbles that the software messed with. But I wrote a quarter of that book by dictation because it got to the point that I could not look at the screen and produce the thoughts. Essentially, I had to write with my eyes closed in order for my brain to have enough power to come up with the prose.
So you almost had to write the book as though you were blind.
Exactly. Yeah, I did some testing in Denver with a fancy new thing, and when your brain is trying to think because you ask it to, the blood vessels open up and it sends oxygen to the areas where you need it. But when your brain is injured, it closes down the blood vessels when you try to, let's say, read, and it takes shunts the blood away from it, so you will stop doing that activity. And so somebody who read my scan, who independently said that my visual cortex is damaged enough that I use all of my brain power when I have my eyes open just to process regular vision. And when I try to add reading on top of that, my brain clamps down on it because it says we don't have enough juice to do that. And so and that's why, I can't remember what I read in a novel. I am editing a novel that was written already, and that I can kind of do. I'm getting a little better there. But yeah, this is really hard and really frustrating.
And it must be. So how do you get through that, Seán? How do you, because it sounds as though you're moving through this, you're living with it, you're teaching as you can, you're writing as you can. I know you're a songwriter and doing those things. What inspiration do you find, or what resources do you use to kind of help you get over, it seems to me that some people in your exact same circumstances could just really curl up and retreat from the world and give up and be either terribly depressed or worse. So I'm wondering how it is that you're able to cope with and live with this. What are the ways that you do that?
I have a good support network. My department chair at school was absolutely stellar in keeping tabs on me and helping me find ways to get back into the classroom without taxing myself. My wife also carried a pretty heavy load, let me off the hook on a lot of things while I was trying to get my head back together enough to be able to sit at a screen, things like that.
What do you mean she let you off the hook?
Well, like I need to organize things like taking out the garbage and whatnot. Oh. And if I messed up on that, she didn't give me the look or anything like
Oh,
that. It's
so the honeydew list got
yeah,
reduced, huh?
it got reduced and postponed and any number of things. But really, I said to myself, the novel that I was almost done editing when I got hit has already won awards as a manuscript. It needs to be put out there. I'm going to get to where I can do that. I need to get back into the classroom because I do enjoy teaching very much. It's not something I do only for money. In fact, don't tell anybody that I would do it for just enough money to survive on, because it feeds me, feeds my soul. And so I wanted to get back to that, and that meant I had to do brain therapy with, computerized, and also people reading me things where I had to recall what I heard and look at stuff and try to recall. And it hurt physically to push my brain like that. I work when I can. I sleep a lot. I get up and I work some more, and then I sleep some more. And I take breaks and try to do things that are novel, like some traveling to feed my brain and create new pathways for stuff. I just decided I was not going to give up, because I do see people who have given up, people who are far worse off than I am and really can't push forward very far, very well. It's all incremental. And so I maybe didn't get injured as badly as a lot of people I know. And so their incremental growth is slower than mine, because you're talking in percentages. 10% improvement for them is much less than 10% improvement for me. I still have major things that I cannot do, but I know people who still have trouble walking, still have trouble talking, and have very big memory difficulties. I have considerable executive function issues. Like, I walk over to the garbage can intending to take out the garbage and will forget that's what I'm doing. I'll just walk right past it. But, that in the scheme of things isn't that bad.
Right. Well, it sounds like some real craving for you of claiming back the things that had the most meaning, and at the same time having to be patient in your process to getting there.
One of the first, when I was first assessed for brain therapy, one of the things they told me was that one of the biggest roadblocks to healing, in my case, will be my desire to heal quickly. And that took me aback, because I thought, the harder I work at it, the faster I'll get better. But in the case of a brain injury, you have to pace yourself.
Mm. And the tempo is not determined by your desire.
No, it is not. And so that's frustrating. I have days where I want to do something that I used to be able to do, and I can't. And I'm just like, oh, gosh. And I'll tell, sometimes I'll use Facebook as a sounding board. I can't read. And they'll say, keep trying.
Mm. Well, that perhaps is the message, right? Keep trying for all of us in all of the areas of our life. Seán, is there a resource that you'd like to share for others going in addition to your book? Now, so is your book, A Quest for Tears, out in the world?
Yes, it is. And you can get it through Amazon. But if you want a copy that is personalized to yourself or to somebody, you can go to Seán Dwyer Author, SeánDwyer author.com. And there's a shop there where you can purchase the book, and I will send it out myself, signed as you wish. Also, your local bookstore, including Barnes & Noble, could grab it for you.
Yeah, I try to encourage people to order through their indie bookstore when they can.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that can be done. But also a website called brainline.org has a vast variety and amount of information about brain injury stuff. And I will be the keynote speaker at the Washington Brain Injury Conference in Tacoma in April. You can find that info online as well.
Well, so for those listening, or if you have a loved one who's struggled with brain injury, these are resources for you. Seán, thank you so much for being a guest here today. You've taken me down an interesting road of being grateful for things that I'm usually frustrated by, earworms included, and I thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to your audience.
In reflecting on my conversation with Seán today, there are a couple of extra really big blooms that come to mind. And one of them is this, and it's one that comes up in a lot of these conversations with my Morning Glory guests. And that is that when I asked him about the dark moment, and when I asked him about how he got through it, what changed, what turned, what kept him going, he said these words, "I just decided." And I've heard that in so many voices that it's been surprising me. And it strikes me that there's so much in these stories that people can't control, whether it's an accident or a state of depression or another circumstance that isn't within their control. But there's a moment at which they just decide that they're going to go forward. There's something very exciting about that moment when you realize what is in your control, even when so much is not. The second big thing that really stands out for me in my conversation with Seán is how he missed the brain noise that he once had. He missed the earworms and being able to conjure up a song in his mind, being able to think things through in the way that he was used to, being able to cry real tears. And I thought about how much of our humanity, how much of our bodily sensations, how much of our day-to-day we sometimes take for granted, and how grateful he became as he began to resume some of those things, and how much he appreciated what they were. That song I mentioned, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. Gosh, makes me want to really think about gratitude. Thank you so much for listening to the Morning Glory Project today. I hope that you found this story as touching and inspiring as I did. If you enjoy these stories, please share them with your friends. Let folks know that we're here and that we're sharing all kinds of amazing and inspiring stories. We'd love to have you. Go out and bloom.